if you invited me to your home and left me in the study or the living room or the family room while you went off and did something else and left me there for any length of time, I would start to snoop around. It's a character flaw, I know, but I just can't help myself. And where I would usually go is to a bookshelf that you might have, because I'm always looking at book titles. I go into your house, you leave me alone for a couple minutes, I'm going to a bookshelf and I'm going to turn my head this way and I'm going to read the book titles to myself. And I'm looking for a way of connecting with you, because while you can't judge a book by its cover, you can get an impression about people by the books that they have purchased. And whether it's War and Peace or some book on leadership or some, chick lit, as they call it, or something like that, I'm going to get a sense for who you are by the books you have. Now go with me on this. I want you to imagine that you're 2,000 years ago and you're in the boyhood home of Jesus of Nazareth. And while he probably didn't have any bookshelves, and he certainly wouldn't have had any books on it, he did know the Bible. He knew it exceedingly well. He knew it better than anyone else in this whole room. And, of course, his Bible was only 66 books. They weren't books at all. They were scrolls. But as the recorded words of Jesus were given to us in Matthew, Mark, Luke, and John, it turns out that Jesus quoted from 24 of the 66 books. Direct quotes. And of the 24 books, he quotes from the Psalms, the 150 Psalms of David, more than any other book. I mean, it's really astonishing. It's not just like by twice or three. It's a factor of 10 maybe. Jesus quotes the Psalms dozens of times. And it's interesting that if you go back, if you know the Psalms and you've read them, you'll know that there's Psalm 22 and Psalm 110 and Psalm 81 and Psalm 69 and Psalm 16 and all these Psalms all throughout the recorded words of Jesus. But interestingly enough, and the point that I want to get to is, not once will you hear him quote the words of Psalm 23. Our favorite psalm, the one that we read almost on any occasion of anxiety, at a graveside, at a funeral, in a war zone, in a hospital, almost any moment where we have anxiety, where we want to trust in God, we want to lean on him and ask for his guidance and get hope in our life, people normally crack out Psalm 23, but our favorite psalm is never read by our favorite person. Never read. Not even close. And why is that? Why would Jesus not say anything about what is the most beautiful, iconic psalm in the whole Old Testament, what we would call the Old Testament? Never been used. I mean, think about this, another way of thinking about it, that if you went into the boyhood home of Jesus, or the home that he lived in when he was 20, looked on his shelf, you'd see, theoretically, all the books of the Bible there, and Psalm 23 up, never been used. He never quotes it. Why is that? Well, inquiring minds want to know. So let's look at this, and let's look at it pretty closely. You know it so well on page 5. This is actually the King James Version, and I wanted that to be written out for you because you probably heard it. It's familiar to your ear. Look how it begins. The Lord is my shepherd. And then it says at the very last line, I will dwell in the house of the Lord forever. And what I want to show you this morning briefly is the structure and the flow of this psalm, because I'm going to make a point of discovery this week that I think might help us understand how God works in our own life. Do you see, for example, that this psalm is essentially a journey from beginning to end? The writer, David, the shepherd himself, is actually outlining the whole journey of his life. And he's really moving us through the verbs like, he maketh me to lie down in green pastures, and then I get up and he leads me beside still waters. He leads me in paths of righteousness. Then I walk through the valley of the shadow of death. And all of that is action, that I'm on a journey. But look where it ends. It ends in a home, the house of the Lord, where I dwell forever. You see, it's taking the king, King David, from the outside to the inside. And even the landscape, the images, the scenery that he lists is moving from the outside to the inside. It starts out talking about green pastures and still waters and paths, all things that you'd find on the outside, and ends up talking about tables and cups in a home, in a house, from the outside to the inside. Think about this also. There's relative danger in the first part of the Psalms. Even though I walk through the valley of the shadow of death, pretty scary place. And at the end, goodness and mercy, they've got my back. They follow me all the days of my life. You see the change from the outside to the inside. And even that signature passage says, I will fear no evil, for thou art with me, is actually an interesting thing. He says, for thou, you, God, art with me. Your rod, your staff, they comfort me. And at the end of the poem, he says, I'm in your home. I'm with you. You're with me. You see how he says, you are with me in danger, and then I'm with you forever. It's an outline of a journey, a spiritual journey, a journey of faith that the writer, David, takes. Let me just show you one other thing, because this is remarkable in and of itself. You see that he starts out taking essentially the position of a sheep. The Lord is my shepherd, I shall not want. He maketh me to lie down. He leadeth me beside still waters. The writer is saying, I'm like a sheep to the shepherd, and then at the end, I'm a guest. I'm at home. I dwell in the house of the Lord forever. You see, what this psalm is essentially a poem about a homecoming, a poem about a man who sort of identifies himself as a sheep needing the guidance, and as he takes hold of the guidance, and as he walks in this guidance, and as he follows his own shepherd, guess what? His elevation, his position is actually lifted up, and he becomes a guest in the house of the Lord. It's a journey about a homecoming, about a transformation.
To make a monetary gift that supports the ministries of Christ Church Plano, visit christchurchplano.org.